large group breaking through the fence surrounding the statue of former President Andrew Jackson.
Will you shut up, man?
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Will Donald Trump invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807, or has he already invoked it, or does he plan on invoking it? And I do say invoke, people. For some of these content creators that are out there in YouTube that have been saying he's going to sign it, or he may sign it, or he might sign it, or he already signed it. There's nothing to sign, folks. It was already signed in 1807. It gives the president that power. That is his baby. That is his thing alone. The Congress can't do nothing about it if he invokes it. The Supreme Court can't do nothing. Nobody can do anything. And nobody could disobey it. The Pentagon, the CIA, nobody can come in and say, no, you're not doing that. As long as he is in power, he has that power. So what are some of the indicators that this has possibly already been invoked? What's some of the buzz? What's some of the chatter? How many of you have family that is military? How many of you are military? How many of you have gotten an order to deploy? Because I've been hearing that from many of my subscribers on my other platform, my other channel. Family, friends, people that have been noticing a whole lot more Air Force activity in their state, specifically California. A woman in Indiana told me that she's seen military personnel rolling down the street next to where she lives. People in Alabama saying that their loved ones have gotten orders to deploy, but they're not saying where. Rumors that Donald Trump was in hiding for a period of time in response to what some people are calling a political assassination orchestrated by the Iranian government in response to that dirtbag general of theirs that got blown up for doing all the shit that he was doing. He deserved it. He had it coming. But yes, that was their national icon and hero, and there's two sides or three sides to the story, so they may feel some kind of way about it. But they put a mafia-style hit out on Donald Trump, and a lot of the questions, and especially the question that is on my mind, is the left-leaning branch of the United States government behind that? Could they possibly be working in cahoots with the Iranian government? I mean, they gave them billions of dollars. Could they be working with the Iranians to let this hit go through so that their hands are clean from the blood? They could just write it off as a terrorist act from a foreign country. But wouldn't that put us in the middle of a war? How would they talk their way out of going to war with somebody they've been secretly supporting all this time? See, a lot of people don't know much about this Insurrection Act of 1807, and if you go to Google, and you go to their funded and supported fact checkers, are saying, no, he didn't invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. Well, maybe he hasn't yet, but could it possibly be his last act of defiance? We'll find out in the next few days. He's gone on the record saying that he condemns what happened at the Capitol. You know, President Trump's always been the law and order kind of guy, and a lot of people are trying to say that he incited the insurrection himself with his own language. But what exactly did he say? There's some clues in his last speech that reveal a lot about invoking the Insurrection Act. So what did he say? If any of you listened to the speech, I listened to it, and I heard something that actually made the hair in the back of my neck stand up, so I had to get it cut off. But he said, everybody go home, go in peace. And he also said it's going to be wild around here. That's what he said in the tweet. But he told him when he saw him, he says, we are the party of law and order. Go home in peace. Doesn't really sound like, come on, everybody, let's rush up into the rotunda of the Congress and let's hang Nancy Pelosi and let's kill Mike Pence. You got to understand that these people in the celebrity elite power structure, and Trump is one of them, I might add. I know you don't like to hear that, but it's true. He's been there with them all along for a very long time. You know this. But there's one thing that they do right? Not only do they send out dog whistles and signals to other people, but they also speak in a lot of code. And if you're not used to hearing this kind of language on a regular, everyday basis, you're not even going to know what it is. It's just going to fly right over your head. But could him invoking the Insurrection Act be in response to what happened on Wednesday? Some people would say yes. Other people would say not so fast. Because let's take a look at what the Insurrection Act entails, what it also has in there as certain elements for invoking that act to begin with. It's not only dealing with rebellion, it's dealing with a lot of other stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and break it all down for you because I've read it myself, and I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen so that you could see it and read along with me, and you tell me what you think. Section 333, interference with state and federal law. The president, by using the militia or the armed forces or both, or by any other means, shall take such measures as he considers necessary to suppress in a state any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy, if it, 1, so hinders the execution of the laws of the state and of the United States within the state, that any part or class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by law, and the constituted authority of that state are unable, fail, or refuse to protect that right, privilege, or immunity, or to give that protection, or 2, opposes or obstructs the execution of the laws of the United States or impedes the course of justice under those laws. In any situation covered by Clause 1, the state shall be considered to have denied the equal protection of the laws secured by the Constitution. Now, I don't know if any of that really makes sense to you, but let me break it down to you just a little bit so that you can understand just how broad and how ambiguous that is, but how broad of a scope that it has given a president power in. So now let's say, for example, that you have states that are rigging, manipulating, or have a bunch of irregularities surrounding them regarding voting machines, voting stations, polling stations, the counting of votes. If anybody interferes or obstructs in that, or there is a conspiracy to manipulate the ballot, the first step is to challenge them in the courts. If that fails, the second thing would be is if it becomes so big and so powerful that it involves other branches of the federal government itself that are also involved in working in conspiracy with these states, then a president can regard such an act as a coup or an insurrection. So if you have people in the House or people in these intelligence agencies that are working with these states to rig an election, then that goes against the Constitution. That goes against the laws of this land, and it goes against their own state laws. Now, we already know what all the evidence is that that has presented for an investigation into this entire election, but yet nobody is entertaining an election. Everybody's saying there's no evidence, yet there's evidence all over the place. I mean, all you got to do is do your own research, and you'll find it. Of course, you're not going to find it on the mainstream media or anywhere else, and everybody else is going to say that it's all just tinfoil hat conspiracies. There's no evidence. There's no evidence. There's more evidence for voter fraud in this election than there ever was for any Russian collusion on the part of Donald Trump. Way more evidence. As a matter of fact, Mueller finally concluded that there was no evidence for collusion. The only thing that he said is that there was evidence of obstruction, but guess what? It's like I said, every president obstructs. Every president's cabinet has had members that have obstructed all throughout the entire history of this country. You can't really avoid obstruction because sometimes you just do it without even knowing you're doing it. Human error. It happened all through the Obama administration. I mean, look at all the obstruction that was going on with Benghazi, with the Fast and the Furious. With nobody asking the tough questions about all these drone strikes. How about all the obstruction that was going on with Bill Clinton? How about all the obstruction that was going on with George W. I could go on and on and on and on. Ronald Reagan, George H.W., Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, of course. We could go on and on and on and on and on. Every administration obstructs. So what did they really have in that whole 4-year, 3-year charade that cost us millions and millions of dollars? Nothing. But libertarians like myself said, go ahead and do the investigation. Let's see what you got. 2-3 years later, I was already over it. You don't have anything. Trust me, believe me, somebody that has been involved in the justice system knows when they have evidence, they'll bring it forward right then and there. There was none. But there's a ton of evidence for this voter fraud, rigging of the elections, and these Dominion machines, and I can go on and on and on. And nobody's taking them seriously. So what happens in that situation? You have 75 million people that voted for this man, Donald Trump, and a handful of them decide that they've had enough and they're going to rush up into the Capitol. They are bringing the focus back to the people that they see as being the direct root and cause of all their problems. And they're not too far off from the truth. I've said it all along. If BLM was to do the same thing, I would have said the same thing. They're bringing their grievance to the people that have the power to change it. Tearing up your own streets and burning it all down is not going to change nothing. They laugh at that. They look at those people like, look at the peasants burning down their own stuff. Looks like a spoiled kid that's tearing up every toy in his room just to piss his parents off. That's what it looks like to these elites. But they'll pander, they'll, you know what I mean? They'll play to the fancies and the emotions to get the votes. But the minute they get into power, you're all forgotten about. 75 million people in this country feel like that their concerns are not being met. They're not being heard. And all the rhetoric that is going on right now with the censorship, with labeling everybody a terrorist, taking Ron Paul down off of Facebook, and all these other things that's going on, you would have to ask yourself, when can the rhetoric stop? When is the division going to be over? When are these people going to finally stop stoking the fire and fanning the flames? When are they going to actually get on TV and say, okay, we understand. There is a lot of problems in this country right now. We are listening. We want to hear you. All summer long, they took a knee. But now they can't listen to the people on the other side? 75 million people? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just like 1,500 rednecks from some trailer park in Missouri goose-stepping through the Capitol. Heil Hitler saluting. It's way, 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 way beyond all that. Are there white supremacists out there? Damn right there probably is. But are there everything else out there? Absolutely. I saw a person with a rainbow flag hat that said Trump on it. Gay people for Trump or whatever the title was that they had. Latinos for Trumps. Blexit, blacks for Trump. Cubans for Trump. Venezuelans for Trump. Both sides of any extreme in politics will have their fascists. I hate to tell you. The Soviet Union was extremely fascist in all its suppression and censoring and murdering of people. Italy, China, Cuba, everywhere. Fascism is a complete suppression of all opposition. If you want to look for the most, the best definition that you can give for it in just a few words. What we have going on right now is fascism. We are heading towards an authoritarian, totalitarian government, and it starts with the mass media suppressing and censoring the opposition, like they did in Nazi Germany, like they did in the Soviet Union, like they did in Italy under Mussolini. We are going down a dark, dangerous road, and all I hear is rhetoric on one side, of which is inflaming and emboldening and radicalizing many to the other side. Every day somebody new is being radicalized on the right. Yet I hear nobody calling for peace. Nobody's looking to open up a dialogue, nothing. It's complete chaos and anarchy in our own government. And if Donald Trump does invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807, it might surprise all of you. Another thing you have to consider about this is the possibility that this whole thing was a sham from the very beginning. Donald Trump was a manufactured villain, that he was perfectly aware of that fact. He took it as far as he can take it and then finally realized that he took it too far, or it's been taken too far. Could he have invoked the Insurrection Act of 1807 and turned the military on his own supporters? The people that are actually storming up the stairs in these buildings to save his presidency in their minds. Could he actually have them all killed? Was this some big giant plot to bring all these people out to the light? To expose all of these people that have been considered enemies of the state, enemies of the progressive left agenda for a long time? Is there a possibility that this whole Trump thing was a scam to bring all these people out, to line them all up, to know what they look like, and get rid of them? Gas them, lock them up, kill them. You never know what these people are thinking, because the way that they move is according to statistics, intelligence, emotions, psychological warfare, and everything like that. You can't put nothing past them. You can't underestimate them by any means. And you can't doubt anything that they're capable of doing or anything that they might do. Because this government is that corrupt. It's not the government for you, it's the government for them. All we are is just freaking peasants. In the minds of the celebrity elite power structure, it doesn't matter if you're BLM or if it doesn't matter if you're a Proud Boy. You're all rubes in their minds. You are all peasants. You need to get back to work. You need to shut up and know your place. We are in a moment of time where this shit is not funny at all. It's not a joke. And the things that I hear and see on Twitter and everything, and the memes and the jokes that people are putting out there, same thing like the ones that I seen in the summertime. You honestly think that's doing this situation any good? Do any of you really care? Do any of you really want to see what happens next? Keep with the rhetoric. Keep with your memes. Keep joking and laughing and thinking this is all just some big game. People like myself would like to see a resolution, would like to see a dialogue opened up, where all these sides can come together and everybody can address their issues, what their issues are. And this government needs to meet it. And it needs to meet it fast before there is no need to have a government anymore, because the people will be at each other's throats and there's nothing you could do to stop it. Was the Insurrection Act invoked? We'll see. More next time.